All right. I'm recording this day before the start of the 24-25 NBA season, and I've been wanting to get my thoughts out on the NBA for a while, so this is me doing that. And without wasting too much time, I'm gonna just get into what I have today, which is a tier list, just power ranking teams in the NBA going into the regular season. All right, so I have this split into six big tiers with mini tiers in each tier. Um, yeah, and without further ado, let's start with the F tier, see what we got in there. In the pooper, obviously Washington and Brooklyn are going to be the worst teams in the NBA this year. Um, Nets have Nick Claxton, who I think is a great building block. Everybody else should be on the trade block. If you ask me, they got some good players that can help some good teams. Washington, yeah, can they get any value for Kyle Kuzma? And how good is Bilal Coulibaly? What can Alex R show us? Is Jordan Poole even a good player? We'll find out. Uh, I also really like, their other draft picks this year, Bob Carrington and Keyshawn George. Corey Kispert is a good floor spacing bench guy to have. Yeah, yeah, we'll see what those guys can do. And then the next tier up, we have the Western Conference tax team, which is Portland. I just have them here because I think they're going to be the worst team in the Western Conference. And now that's not really that bad of a thing, given how hard the Western Conference is. And they have some good players, Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant are really good players. Are they still going to be on the team at the end of the regular season or end of the season for Portland? We'll see. And what steps can players like Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson take? Is Donovan Clingan ready right now, or does he need a couple years? Are they keeping DeAndre Ayton or what's his name, Robert Williams? We will see. Next here up, we have the Chicago Bulls. They're weird because they have some good players, or they have Zach Levine, who's while his value seems to be down around the league right now, he's shown that he's a really good player, and from what I've seen in preseason, he's probably gonna build his value back up this year. The Bulls look like they might win some games, but I'm not sure they're ready to win enough games to get them into the postseason right now. It's nice to see Lonzo back out there. Josh Giddey, great passer. Can he affect the game outside of playmaking? Uh, He's not a good shooter, not a good defender. We will see. We will see. He seems to want a lot of money, but he's gonna have to earn it. And then we got Kobe White. I hope Kobe White stays aggressive this season. He's shown us that he's a good player, but something about Kobe White makes me feel like he might defer a little bit too much. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully he doesn't. The Jazz, honestly, they could be in the same tier as Portland, but they just have like the Laurie Markkinen part of this. Um, yeah, so Lowry's probably gonna win them a couple more games than they should be winning. And yeah, so I have them in the definitely bad, not terrible tier. And finally, we have Detroit. They added some veterans, so that should help. Um, can their five prospects or the four other prospects other than Cade Cunningham develop as shooters. Maybe not Jalen Duren. I don't think he has any chance of that. But Asar, Ivy, Holland, can they become league average shooters? Because if they can, the defensive potential of that unit is scary, even with Jalen Duren out there. Um, and yeah, they have like some spacers now as well. Simone Fontecchio, Malik Beasley. So hopefully everything looks a little more coherent over there in Detroit. And then we have the D tier. I have two tiers in here. The young hipster teams. The Raptors and Hornets. With the Raptors, they have Scotty Barnes, and then they have RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. So that's already like a good group of guys to have. Um, but then they also have like Jakob Podol, and a bunch of young guys. Their bench guards are going to be a nightmare for opposing guards because you have Jamal Sheed and Davion Mitchell who will make your life hell. So I hope they have like bench units where they're running those two out there together. That should be fun to watch. The Hornets, can LaMelo Ball stay healthy? Can Mark Williams stay healthy? What step does Brandon Miller take? Does he take the next step? Are we getting closer and closer to All-Star Brandon Miller? Um, that could be pretty important for how the Hornets look this year. And Miles Bridges is a good guy to have in your, I guess starting lineup when you're a team like the Hornets. Um, I like their draft pick to John. He looks very confident from three. I didn't realize that he was a good 3-point shooter like that. Like I've seen him shoot in preseason. I thought he was more of a like run and effort guy, which he is, but seems like he can also shoot, which is scary to think about. But I just love the effort that he plays with, especially for this Charlotte team that seems like sometimes they don't care enough, especially last season. But with LaMelo back, with Brandon Miller taking another step, and hopefully Mark Williams being healthy, they should have something interesting uh, this season. And then one up from there is the not good, not bad tier. The Clippers. I could see the Clippers like being in C tier, but honestly, with Kawhi's injury, record and the fact that he's out indefinitely going into the first game of the season, I just with how competitive the West is, I just cannot see it for the Clippers. Maybe we'll see Rockets Harden again, but yeah, there isn't really much to be excited about in Clipper Town other than the Intuit Dome. That looks fun. Kai Jones also looks like he's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll see how long he can stay in the rotation. They're gonna need him for the energy that he brings um, throughout their season because it looks like it's gonna be a long season for the Clippers. And then we have Atlanta in here. Another team that I could see being in the C tier, but I also just don't trust them. Um, Trey Young is great. Jalen Johnson is great, but is that enough um, to move them up in the East? I like that they have a lot more length going into this season, just to insulate Trey Young. Um, but they're gonna have to go out there and prove it for me to believe the hype. And next here is the C tier, and we have the Party Crashers, which is Golden State, Houston, and the Spurs. With Golden State, they're putting so much on Steph Curry right now, and I know he's a top 10 player, but he could use some help. Fortunately, they have a bunch of rotation level players with tradable contracts that could probably eventually net them that like co-star for Steph Curry if a player becomes like available at a good price point. But yeah, Steph and Draymond as your top two guys is probably not gonna cut it. We'll see what step Jonathan Kuminga can take because I feel like that could be pretty important for how far the Golden State Warriors are able to go. And we have the Houston Rockets. They have so many good young players. We'll see what Jalen Green and Alfred Sengun are looking like this year. Um, yeah, they're like really deep. They're like 10 deep. Reed Shepard looks like he's fun. Amen Thompson. What is Jabari looking like this year? Um, yeah. And then the Spurs. It's just Wemby. I mean, you just give Wemby Chris Paul or give Chris Paul Wemby, and yeah, everybody should be concerned. Um, it kind of reminds me of when Chris Paul went to the OKC Thunder and they became a playoff team. Uh, Whatever the case, I know the Spurs are going to be better this year, and with Wemby being the alien that he is, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of this season he's like a bona fide like top 10 player, top 5, and the Spurs are the 8th seed in the playoffs after going through the play-in and stuff. So yeah. And then a tier up from them, I have the Miami tier, which is just yeah, Miami. I don't know. They could be like with the Party Crashers in the sense that like they're like a play-in team. Maybe they're 9 that you want to avoid the play-in because you don't want to play the Miami Heat in a play-in game, or maybe they're like the 8th seed and you know they'll give a first seed or a run for their money if the first seed is not careful, which is what the Party Crashers tier is. But I could also see them being in the could make a run tier, which is like the tier for teams that I think could make it all the way to the conference finals, but I can't really see them going beyond that. Which brings me well with Miami. I'm also watching for Bam's 3-point shooting. Um, Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier backcourt. Does that work? Um, Bam at the 4. Khalil Ware maybe. We'll see. Could make a run tier. The Cavs, the Pacers, the Magic. The Cavs, I don't know. I feel like they need a trade, but at the same time, you look at their top 4 and you're like, who are you gonna trade out of this 4? So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe some internal development from um, Evan Mobley and Darius Garland could be enough for them, but we will see. The Pacers, fun team. They get Benedict Mathurin back now after he was injured for a lot of last season. Um, yeah, but it's mostly the same team. Um, I'm very curious to see if they look better defensively. I'm not so sure because they didn't add any personnel that would make them better defensively, but we'll see. And then we have the Orlando Magic, and they're basically the opposite of the Pacers in the sense that they're really good defensively, but can they take a step offensively, especially in late games when things get really bogged down? Um, they added KCP, which just adds to their defense. I'm sure they're going to be getting out in transition a lot. Um, can um, what's the name of their point guard? I'm forgetting. Um, you know what I'm talking about. Uh, can he take a step offensively? This is a great prove it season for him. He's great defensively. Um, they just need him to be able to provide a little off the dribble juice, and yeah, we'll see. And then yeah, see what we have in the next tier. All right, so B tier. Um, I have 5 teams in here. This is the Stars Aligned Contenders. Um, this is just one of them ones where like everything's gonna have to go perfect. Gonna have to make the right trades if necessary. Like in the case of like New Orleans and maybe Sacramento, you're gonna have to get like great help like throughout the season. Like in the case of like Los Angeles and like Memphis, even the Bucks as well, even New Orleans. To be fair, um, and you're gonna have to get the right matchups in the playoffs. The balances are gonna have to go your way. The refing decisions are gonna have to go your way. Just everything is gonna have to align in order for these teams to win a championship. It's not impossible, but it is highly unlikely. Um, but if certain things go their way, it's definitely not impossible. And then we have the A tier. Um, the solid outside chance contenders are Denver, the Mavericks, and the Suns. But these teams, the reason why I call them the solid outside chance contenders is I can see them winning a championship. But I also feel like they have a bad matchup in them. Like there's probably like one, they probably have like one team each that like if they met in the playoffs, it would be like a gentleman's sweep. So whether that was in the first round or the second round or the conference finals or even the finals, like if it's the wrong matchup for them, they're out and it's not gonna look pretty. Like an example would be the like last year's Carl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert front court and all the problems that seems to give Denver. The Mavericks, with their backcourt of Doncic, Kyrie, and then at their small forward you have um, Clay Thompson, who they brought in, so they're so people can't sag off their forwards in the playoffs like they did for Derrick Jones Jr. last year. But the issue with that is that that could come with a lot of defensive problems. So there might be a team out there that might be able to exploit that significantly. Um, with the Suns, I don't know if I know what team exactly would give them like the most problems, but I can completely see a scenario where they either go all the way and they win the championship, or like they get to the second round and like there's just this team that just completely whoops the hell out of them. So yeah, that's that for that tier. But I will say like I like what the Suns look like in preseason. Ryan Dunn's been a lot of fun, so hopefully his shooting man stays like the way it is right now, and we can see a bunch of Ryan Dunn minutes. Book looks good. Beal looks good. KD looks good. Um, Nurk is probably the weakest link in their like starting five, but at least he looks like he's committed to shooting threes this season. So that gives like a an additional level of spacing that could definitely help their offense as well if he's knocking them down. Um, Tyus Jones looks like a shrewd signing for this team. Defensively, I'm a little worried about them, but they're just gonna outshoot a lot of teams. To be fair, um, Mavs. Do I have any Mavs thoughts? Derek Lively. Yeah, what do you have for us, Derek? He Derek Lively's development is going to be important for this team, especially with Klay Thompson. Can Derek Lively become like a Rudy Gobert type of defender where he's so good that he's erasing um like so many perimeter defensive issues because of his length and instincts at the rim. We'll see. Denver. It's gonna be fun to see how Russell Westbrook works in Denver. I'm not the biggest fan of Russ in like a championship sense, but I feel like Denver could be like the perfect spot for him to like realize his best potential from a winning standpoint, like in the playoffs, like going all the way, just because of the the team's been set for a while. Like they know their identity. They don't need to change their identity, but you know Russ can only add to it, especially if they lean into the things that Russ is good at. Then we have the serious title contenders here, which is just Philly. Yeah, it's good. There's like very little chemistry with that team because they revamped the roster so much this offseason. And then their stars, Paul George and Joel, have serious health and injury like problems that they've had to deal with. So they're also very contingent on their stars being able to make it to the playoffs in good shape. But also being able to find a balance as far as the regular season goes, so they're not, in the play-in like they were last year. Then finally we have the serious title contenders, no question mark. And it's a Thunder. I'm sorry, that top six: Shea, J Dub, Chet, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein is just ridiculous. And then you have like guys like Casey Wallace and like Aaron Wiggins and so on. Yeah, the Thunder are gonna be good, and they're gonna be fun. So looking forward to that. The Knicks starting five is great. Jalen Brunson, added Cat, and then you have Josh Hart, offensive rebounding maestro. You have Mikal Bridges, whose shot looks broken, but hopefully he can get that together. because I don't know if that's what the Knicks thought they were signing up for. But great defender, great shooter as far as history goes. So, and then you got OG Anunoby, one of the best defenders in the league. Also, a pretty good three-point shooter, adding to his game. Yeah, they're gonna be nice. And then the Timberwolves. It took me a while to warm up to the Timberwolves after the Cat trade, but when you really think about it, that it just gives them a really good top seven. Like they have seven great rotation players in they have Rudy. Say what you want about him, but they got Rudy. Now I guess you slide Julius Randle in at the four. Got Jalen McDaniel. Jalen, not Jaden. Jaden, yeah, Jaden McDaniels. Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley, and then off the bench you have Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo. That's a really good top seven. And then your eighth guy is Nikhil Alexander Walker. Um, yeah, good team. Excited to see how they look this year. And then finally, only team in my S tier is the Boston Celtics. There isn't really too much to say about that. Does Kristaps come back healthy and in good shape? I think that's about it. Uh, does Al Horford finally start to show his age? Um, yeah, they got a good top six, and then like right behind that you have Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser. Great top eight. And yeah, I expect them to do exactly what they did last season, be the best team in the Western Conference, uh, be on track to win the back-to-back championships. We'll see what this teams in the tier right below them have to say about that. Um, Fine. I'm also pretty curious to see if they win the NBA Cup. I think something that I'm going to be watching for personally. And seems like a fun thing is the what team is going to be the first team to win the NBA Cup, have the best regular season record in the entire NBA, and win an NBA championship. When we finally get a team that does that, they're gonna be getting shouts for like best, team that we've ever seen and things of that sort. So that should be pretty fun for sure. And finally, I just have, all my tiers here, in one shot in case anybody wants to see that. And yeah, it's been a long time without NBA basketball. The WNBA was fun. Um, Now we are back with men's basketball, and yeah, excited for the season. Congrats to the New York Liberty. Uh, Sucks for the Minnesota Lynx. Nafisa Collier was amazing in the finals, but also like the entire playoffs. Excited to see who the Indiana Fever draft. Um, Excited to see how the Chicago Sky look next year. Anyway, this is an NBA video, so have a good day, guys.